Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. Guys, quick update video here on Zilliqa. We haven't done one for a few days, if not maybe a week or something. Do you know what? Time is flying, work's very busy at the moment, so apologies for the lack of videos in the last couple of days. Crazy stuff. But guys, Zilliqa, before we jump into the chart information, of course, we've had the Xcad network update quite recently. Well, that's affected by Zilliqa because Zilliqa does power elements of this, particularly in the staking mechanism that is inbound, of course. So really looking forward to seeing how that may reflect on each other's project. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail of Xcad right now because we'll have another video on Xcad in the next day or two anyway, because it's a really big project that we've been following for a long time. We do have some bags of Xcad. It's very exciting, especially with our knowledge and expertise in that area in general, what it's trying to achieve in the first place. But of course, it's great news for Zilliqa as well, just emphasizing the power of Zilliqa and what it's basically able to achieve with a multitude of different projects, different levels and spectrums of offerings and services. So I think it's absolutely fantastic to see that going ahead. But like I said, we'll do an Xcad update in the next couple of days for sure. But this update of the network is very interesting. Need to get a bit more time to get my head around all the information that I've seen a few hours ago from the median information and everything else. So that's really positive news. And Zilliqa at the moment, guys, well, it's kind of underwhelming in some aspects. Of course, we do want to see Zilliqa by now moving up the ranks. But what I would say, guys, is, you've got to be patient with some of these things. For me, Zilliqa is a long-term hold. I've got mine in staking on the Zilliq wallet. Now, I've got particular targets in mind for Zilliqa this bull run coming. And when I say the bull run, I mean, no one really knows when it's going to finish or whatever, but I do generally believe that it will go into the depths of 2022 for sure at some point. But along the way, I do have some key selling initiatives for Zilliqa, and I'm going to go through a few of those with you in a second. But first of all, I just wanted to reiterate, it has been a bit frustrating seeing Zilliqa being quite slow, but I think it's good to talk positively sometimes. So let's look at this, for example, 28th, 29th of September, down at 7.5 cents. We haven't moved a gigantic amount since then. We did have a big, nice tail up here on the 31st of August with, I think, a high of 12.5 cents, was it? But aside from that, I just wanted to push out the fact that as of now, current recording time, we've had a nice 50% gains movement since that 28th, 29th of September. So albeit in the macro level, it doesn't look like it's been moving around much and it's been a bit tedious. It has been moving, and we confirm that as well with this sort of very temporary basic trend line here to just show you the movement in the upward cycle. Now, people have referred to this element of being the beginning of the fifth wave. I do believe that is occurring as well. It may not be something that goes on a parabolic line that we've seen here, but we're certainly in the aspect of moving into this kind of region of movement for sure. I don't see any particular shape observations here. I think you can look too much into that. It's almost like when people say, if I say pink elephant, what do you think about? Well, obviously you think about a pink elephant, unless you're crazy and you think of other colours just to wind me up or something. But generally speaking, I think some people do look for signals, and of course, you can get some elements of signals out of that, but in general, I believe that everything also is related to things like adoption, project announcements, things like this, increasing their stability, increasing scalability, all of these aspects that you'd expect from a traditional kind of blockchain project. Now, Zilliqa for me is, in my opinion, massively undervalued, but essentially reflective on its period of time in its life cycle. Now, Zilliqa for me, I think we'll get obscene gains in a few years' time for the next big chart upwards. But if you're going to go 10 years into the future, I truly believe this is going to be an absolutely phenomenal price point. I mean, yeah, I've got anticipations in my mind to see at least maybe $5 to $10 in the next run. And what I mean by the next run is around that sort of 2024, 2025 period. And in this year alone, I do generally believe that we will probably get towards that dollar mark. Now, it's really dependent if we go past that dollar or just under it, based on what happens with the Zilliqa roadmap and how positive everything continues to go. If we continue on the momentum that we have right now in terms of its roadmap, intuition and everything going on, I think we could probably smash that dollar. Not massively, but certainly trickling over maybe to that sort of $1.20, $1.30 mark. However, you can obviously under scale that slightly and be slightly under that dollar mark as well. But in general, guys, I think irrespective of all that information, I do generally believe, not just from the fib retracement data that we have here on the long run. I mean, this is suggesting around 107, which actually I think is quite achievable as well. But I would probably be anticipating maybe something slightly under the dollar, perhaps going around that 87 to 92 cent mark. Have we got enough ammunition in Zilliqa when we get towards these areas to push it past the dollar? Let us know what you think in the comments below about that. What's your price prediction, not necessarily for this year, but the bull run that we are arguably already in, albeit slow with Zilliqa's case? What do you think the price point could get to? But I'm sticking firm to around that sort of 87 to 92 cent mark. That would be substantial gains from my perspective. I mean, I was getting Zilliqa personally around that sort of 1 cent mark, 2 cent mark aspect. We've seen great movements since then, and I just want to reiterate that Zilliqa has indeed been moving very well across this whole entire year, to be honest. I was bagging a lot of Zilliqa early on, obviously in recent times, certainly since January, it hasn't really actually dipped below that kind of 5 cent mark, to be honest. So it has been slow moving, but we along the way, to be fair, have had some significant gains. We had the all-time high back up here, I think it was around 25.5 cents. So we've had the correction, and now we're plastering ourselves back up to take on another level. And I do believe we're on the verge, probably towards the end of November, maybe into December, of really breaking this and pushing ourselves back up to that 20 cent mark quite comfortably, and maybe just over that. And that's where I think we'll start seeing a bit of resistance and then major push-ups, guys. I generally believe it over the course of the next maybe few months, if not 6 months or so, taking us to those really high levels. But like I said, let us know what you think about that. But for now, let's just go back into the macro level, guys, before we wrap this video up. So obviously, as we mentioned, it is a bit of a slow burner, but we are seeing significant interest here, because what's right now, as of recording, that's not to say it will definitely close above this area, but if we can get a close above this, around this area of literally 11 cents on the nose, as it were, I truly think that we can start getting some stability here and start pushing this up. Now, we said that when it was back down here, we managed to get some traction. Unfortunately, it was a correction. This was around like that Bitcoin failure of leveraging, which brought us back down, as it does with most crypto assets in that particular region. But let's look at it in this way. Bitcoin is, of course, on the rise. What traditionally happens is that then gets transferred across to Ethereum or some other altcoins around that area. And then eventually, maybe 2-3 weeks after that, you get the altcoin moves. And that's where I do believe we will be going from this structured area of around 11 cents with a very relatively quick push up to that 15 and then on to the 20 cent mark in a short space of time. Time frame wise, I'm not exactly sure, but I do anticipate that potentially happening in the next few weeks for sure. So I'm not fussed. Like I said, I'm a long-term holder of Zilliqa, but I do have points of interest to take profits. In particular for me, it will certainly be nearer towards that 30 cent mark. and I will be taking some on the higher spectrums of that. I'm not really too fussed about taking them individual aspects. I'd be happy to take my initial investment out at around 30 cents because that would be an essential gains for me. Probably around this 70 cent mark, slightly under, so maybe 67 cents, and then I'll be taking a final bag whether it hits or not. Certainly around that 87 region, and I just may be tempted to do one around that 97 cent mark. If it goes above and beyond that, fair play, but I will always still have a bag in the back end waiting. And then in the bear market, of course, my idea would be to reinvest that in the dollar cost average format on the way back down over, I don't know how many years it might be 1, it might be 2, who knows. But as adoption continues to kick on, I don't think it will be as dramatic as it was in the previous chart movements like we've seen a few years back, and then a few years before that as well. I think we might see a bit more of a structured come down, and obviously very much so new high lows. So we'll have to see how that pans out nearer that time. But yeah, very much so, guys. Really interested and excited to see this movement that we've seen here. It's a nice structured stepping stone movement. It is slow, but generally speaking, guys, I think we're on the verge of Zilliqa really pushing upwards soon. Not like we did here on the 31st of October. I mean, generally taking us gradually up to these new levels. Once we get the support mechanisms around here, you see there's a lot of traction in the history of Zilliqa all the way through this year. It's really, really, look how much structure there is in terms of data on these pinpoint areas. Once we break this area, guys, we're literally talking about trying to find support around this sort of 12 cent mark. You can clearly see across the channel of data that this is a key resistance and support mechanism. That's going to be important for us to get support at 12 cents so we can really start pushing up, as I mentioned and drew in before, hitting these lines again where we will again see resistance towards 15, then into 20. But like I said as well, I think this is going to be quite a short-term turnaround in the next month and a half, taking us to these new levels and probably an all-time high going into December's midpoint and into January. Let's see how it plays out, guys. Let us know when you got into Zilliqa, what price point, what's your anticipation for Zilliqa for this year in the bull run, price point wise, and also let us know as well, are you a short-term holder, long-term holder, are you staking? Really like to gather that sort of information, data. It helps people think about it in different ways. Let's just wrap this up, guys. 3% down on the week, which isn't too bad going considering Zilliqa is very slow at the moment. 16% up on the month, which is great. But look at these numbers. It's very low compared to a lot of crypto assets. But you know what? I'm always interested in projects, especially fundamental projects like Zilliqa, when they are boring. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next Zilliqa update video. Bye-bye.